Hello, I'm Georgia Shakti-Hill, and I want to welcome you to Living in Balance. Today we are going to take an initiation into miracles, one man's journey that you may find is not unlike yours. So do come join us. Nigel Taylor has had an initiation into miracles, and we're so pleased he has shared it with us in both book form, and you're with us today to share with us too.
Lovely to be here. Thanks, Shakti.
And you have come from Australia, so we're very pleased that you have made the journey.
It was a long way. I just got off the plane.
But what is the nature of the journey? What are we talking about this journey?
Well, it's an entirely personal journey, and as it is expressed in the book, it is about going inward on the journey of surrender. And what I'm endeavouring to communicate, which I believe is the basis of the spiritual journey, is we often hear the words let go. And when we speak about surrender, the question is surrender to what? And so you say, well, surrender to God. And then the question becomes, well, who's God? And how do you know that God exists? Now, many people will make a leap of faith, and they say, well, God exists. But many, countless millions on the planet want to know God. And there appears to be a pathway through which you can learn the process of surrender is not one of the vanquished and the victorious, but it's a pathway of 3 stages. First of all, it's rather like the kitten, which says, look, I've done everything I thought was right. I've given up. And when you're given up, the mother carries you around, dumps you all over the place, and that's the mother cat.
Our kitten time.
And that's when you say, I'm yours. I give up. Life's got in a bit of a challenge, and I would imagine most of your listeners and viewers have been through many challenges, and they're saying, okay, well, when does this change? And especially today as the challenges are getting more intense. Then you reach a point when you realise it's okay, you can trust, but then what are you trusting? And what you realise is the trust that you have is one which is of love. And the second stage, therefore, is you learn to love God in a way that cannot be articulated in words. And that's a heartfelt connection. And the shift goes from I'm yours to you're mine. And it's like there is this relationship, because it's like Krishna once said, if you look at me and you have me in your heart, I cannot look away. And so consequently, the bond is there where we then hold God in our hearts. But that's only the second stage.
And we have a third stage.
And the third stage is when we move out of contraction about separation of there's God and you've got me, now I've got you, to become one. And it's that mergence process. And the mergence is when we become the living instrument of divinity. We actually break down all the barriers.
Now, is that the story of Nigel Taylor in Initiation into Miracles? Did you go through those 3 stages?
I'm going through them.
Or are you?
I'm going through them. I am, well, that's an interesting question, because I would say in reality, all 3 stages are unfolding at once. Because sometimes we would think that they're linear, but like chaos theory tells us that when a butterfly flaps its wings in New York, it affects the weather in Beijing. Spirituality is not linear. It is a multi-dimensional pathway. Sometimes we need to be carried around.
And you're surrendering then again, and you're ready
look,
to.
Okay. I mean, I can rewrite the book on surrender, because the process of surrender, and it is a process, is to continually learn to detach from all of the elements that we felt in the smaller way that we needed to control. And that particular pathway for me has been one of continually letting go and learning that I'm not vanquished, I'm empowered through the process.
Well, that detachment is that lesson that we get to learn over and over, because just when you think that you're not attached to the outcome, then you do have a result in mind that you want, or another circumstance comes back. So do you think you're getting better at it as you're going through this process, aware?
I would like to think so. That is a belief that I have, that I am getting better at it, because what happens is the closer and closer you get to the the reality of surrender, it comes closer and closer into your heart, and it touches you with people who are closest to you. So when you start the surrender process, it might be, look, I can let go of things like my attachment to my status, to my job, to my home. But then the next stage is you come closer and closer until you touch the hardcore emotions. And that is the people who are most dear to you in your life.
Okay, and so an example of that would be what? When you realize that you're not detached because you love them and someone is suffering, for example?
Exactly.
Okay.
That would be very true. And it's like one of the questions I ask people when I'm sharing with them, are you prepared to surrender your understanding of God? Because at the end of the day, people think that they're going to go to God, right? Well, are you prepared to release God and to just allow for an unconditional, undefined element which is beyond any human form to be embraced? And that's like, well, that means I'm going into the cloud of unknowing.
Well, see, that's what I'm thinking. You're really looking at this philosophically. You are taking a big step back in the big picture. But in our day-to-day lives, as we're going through these little miracles that are happening and the progress we're making on this path, the nature of the journey, how do we know we're making progress then on the, just on the day-to-day, that
on the day-to-day
measurable?
On the day-to-day basis, it builds a level of confidence that in the path you take, that as you increasingly release and let go, that what you do not do. In other words, you become an instrument of divinity. And the pathway of letting go is to allow yourself to be used. In other words, let the divinity be the motivating force, but your beingness, your physical being, is what acts. In other words, we act according to our nature. That is what we call our karma. And so we act according to our nature. And at the end of the day, we haven't done anything. Our nature has been, for instance, like it's the nature of a tiger to be very, very aggressive, and it's the nature of a worm to be very passive. We have brought our nature forth to explore a level of our being.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, we surrender that, because if we've done something what we thought was good, that will bring us good results, or something bad that will bring us bad results.
Okay,
we're not attached to it.
We would go then to the art of surrender. Okay, so the art of surrender is just to intentionally then let go of this, what I thought and what I preconceived I should be doing. Like, what is the nature of Nigel Taylor if you're letting that, the art of surrender, enter your life?
The nature of Nigel Taylor. Well, the nature of Nigel Taylor is one of a spirit in pursuit of the ultimate release of the need to justify one's existence.
Okay, so you are totally on this path, on this journey, and you're
Totally
focused.
Endeavouring to be on the path.
Okay, so tell me about your life. I know you're from Australia.
Yes.
I know that you come to the States and you do conferences and you talk and so forth.
Yeah.
This is a huge book. This book.
It weighs a lot.
Yes, there's a lot that is in here. But the Australian perspective. You are from what part of Australia?
I'm from Western Australia.
Okay.
I was actually born in England. My parents migrated, which forms a very early part of the story.
I did read that part.
Yeah, but my childhood growing up was in Australia, and a country which is so very dear to me. And the essence of this journey started when I was around about 5. I had a little thing I used to do as a child. I had a drowning experience when I was about 5, and that opened me to a whole series of revelations and understandings which I didn't understand.
But
there was a knowing.
Okay, something happened.
Well, shortly after that, it was an automatic habit for me to step out of my body and go and explore. Well, on one occasion, I ended up on this magnificent, beautiful white beach with aqua water and a profoundly beautiful sky. And there was a being on the beach walking towards me, what I would then have regarded as a dark-skinned person, because I didn't know anything about who they were or what. And there was an enormous love and depth of caring and compassion. And then it was gone. But when I came out of the experience, I knew the name of the country to be Australia.
Oh. And this is why you're still in England?
Well, I was a child. I was about
Right.
5 years of age. Well, then, as my parents progressed a few more years later, they ended up migrating to Australia, and the land became so much a part of me because it is a very earthy country.
Yes.
I ended up learning and growing through the Australian culture. That's what formed me. And years later, I found out who the being was that was there calling me forth.
And the being was?
Sai Baba.
Ah, okay. But now, with Australia, you invite people to come and join you there for the Meet the Dreamer activities?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We have planned for the end of this year, bringing together a sojourn to go out to spend some time around the Australian landscape, and on the basis that it flows the direction we're going, because we surrender this,
Okay.
that we would be doing some walkabout.
A bit
with
of a
the
walkabout.
Aboriginals.
Well, we love to hear about that. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that, because you would take us to places like Ayers Rock, known as
Uluru, yes. And also, you know, out of Alice, the Aboriginals there have got a very, very strong culture of taking people out for a period of time. And they will actually walk you out and take you, so you go literally, and I don't want to use this word inappropriately, but it's like you have totally surrendered to the dream time.
Okay.
To the dream time.
I love the dream time. We're going to take a break now, and we will be back with more Nigel Taylor and Initiation into Miracles. And if you are just joining us, I'm Georgia Shakti-Hill, and our guest today is Nigel Taylor, and he has written the book, Initiation into Miracles. Now, you said you didn't really want to write the book, but you shared very in-depth,
Yes.
very personal, and you felt that, well, tell me about your motivation.
As a speaker, and having been around for a long time, sharing with people around the planet, the primary purpose of this was the visitation I had from Sai Baba. And he literally came and he said, now, this book, your life, is to show people that when you teach this, doesn't mean to say that you are some grand guru, but what you are is the same as everybody. You're on a path, you're learning, you're letting go, you're experiencing pains, you're having highs, you're having lows. And there is a matrix to your life. And that matrix, as you get older, you can start to see how all the pieces come together. And with the teaching you've done, the people you've met, the people who've taught you and shared with you, you bring this together. I will guide you, I will show you where your life has taken you, so that other people can look and see that they are the same as you.
Okay, so the people in our audience who might choose to read the book, this would be about healing their lives.
Yes.
Okay, this is how you relate your story of how your life has worked, and other people can relate to that also.
Exactly.
That's the concept.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sai Baba, who came to you then, felt that your story would help others in this sense. Okay, so what have you learned that will help others as far as healing their lives?
Oh, in a nutshell, it is about being prepared to become detached from the emotional component and from the belief systems which keep us engrossed in the pain of the need to control an outcome.
Okay, so we're talking about detachment here,
Total
very important,
detachment.
but also that control. Now, control is a huge factor in people's lives. They think they need to control their life, and you're saying again...
Well, you have it squashed out of you if you don't. You see, I have had a life where, I mean, I was trained as an economist, and I taught in the senior high school economics and history. That was my background. Now, I mean, that's linear, that's logical, and I mean, an economist is supposed to know how things are going to go, all right? So then you come to this pathway here. Nothing takes the appropriate form we would want it to take. And if you take that background of being like someone who likes to see a controlled model come out, and you do it to your own life, goal setting and setting up all the objectives, well, it's one thing to hold the objective, but it's another thing to hold the objective and or greater, so that you can become an instrument and let go of the need to control, which comes back to surrender again.
Okay, the art of surrender we have again. So you're teaching then from your own personal experience how you, anyone who wants to take this journey, or how they can understand the journey better, because we're on the journey anyhow.
Yes.
And it will be easier if we surrender, if we detach, and we do not try to control.
I have found that to be so.
Okay.
When I say easier, it's easier when we learn that it's easier.
Okay.
I mean, there's a little bit of a catch there. It is easier when we learn that it is actually easier. But the process is to learn that it's okay to let go.
Okay. So part of your sharing your story then is to teach people how you have learned this.
Yes.
Okay. And the big lessons have not always been very easy?
No. And the big lessons have been what I have always regarded as initiations. Because an initiation, for all intents and purposes, is about letting go of your fear. You see, whenever we confront a fear, we are being initiated. We are being taken in to another level of our being. And there wouldn't be a person on this planet, bar an adept of a very high order, that isn't confronting fears on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So some of the greatest fears have been the initiations.
And what are the miracles? If this is initiation into miracles, what are the miracles?
Oh, the miracles have been phenomenal. Being with people, sharing with people who have illustrated to me, and I'll give you a classic example, in one of the houses in West Australia, which I mentioned, Sai Baba, in a deep prayer session, deep prayer, I was praying for some form of guidance, some blessing, that I wasn't being misled and falling in the path of what the theosophists call glamour, thinking that the path you're on is different to what it is. And it was at that moment that Sai Baba came through, took me aside, blessed me, gave me the stone which I have in my ring. But more importantly, he indicated in his dialogue with me that there hadn't been one prayer that I had shared that he had not heard. In other words, don't ever think that you're alone. And he's not saying, look, come to me. He's saying, go to God. Howsoever you find God. If you're Christian, go the way of the Christian. If you're Buddhist, go the way of the Buddhist. But your prayers are always heard.
Now, the subtitle of this is Footsteps in the Ashes of the Divine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, that title came to me before an experience. I was sitting down, I was saying, you want me to write this? What do you want me to write? And it was initiation into miracles. Fine, I can write that. I will find out what that means. Footsteps in the ashes of the divine. I'm saying, well, what does that mean? Well, not long after that, I had an experience, again, with Sai Baba, who came and he made the point. He said, you walk in my footsteps. Now, whenever I'm told anything like that, it is a message for whosoever asks me about their own life. So that translates to whosoever is walking the path, is walking in the footsteps of the divine. That's the first thing. Well, I always like to check and find out if I'm understanding things properly. And back in Western Australia, in one of the houses where the vibhuti and the amrit and all of the blessings associated with Sai Baba are being produced on a daily basis, I put a letter down. And in the letter, I just asked him at the shrine, could you please validate this one comment, which you came and told me, but I want to make sure I wasn't delusionary. And the very next day, because it was a sealed letter, the next day the owners of the house phoned me and said, come quickly. We went to the house, and if you can picture the shrine, there's a large picture of Sai Baba, and there's Jesus, and there is the mother, and there is Guru Nanak. So it's a beautiful shrine, and there's honey and amrit and all forms of blessing. And the letter was covered with the sacred ash, but right down on the ground was a mound of the sacred ash from Sai Baba, another mound and another, and his footprint had been trodden right in, and every single element of every mark was there.
So footsteps in the ashes of the divine.
And that's how it comes.
That certainly did then confirm.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was reasonably good.
Did. And for the people who don't know, as far as the ashes,
yes,
that is something that is like a manifestation the Guru is allowed to,
yes,
is able to do,
yes,
and it's in physical form.
Yes.
And so it is vibhuti, I think.
It's called vibhuti. And in a most simple form, ashes to ash, dust to dust, it awakens us to the memory that we can release the physical body, release the soul, release the spirit, and we become.
Okay. Now, as you are traveling and you're sharing, the message then that you keep coming back to, that you want your audiences to get, is the nature of the journey becomes easier if
it becomes easier if we learn through self-introspection to reflect back on the path, all the ups and downs, and to realize where we have endeavored to control, that when we learn to release that need to control, it opens us to be an instrument of divinity. And as an instrument, we therefore move into a more fuller blessing. It's about surrender.
And with you particularly, it is Sai Baba who is...
Particularly for myself.
For yourself. But for all of us, we just look to who is our divine.
Whatever the pathway is. I mean, I have a very, very strong, close relationship with Jesus in my own spirit. And so if a person's a Christian, that's the path. If a person's a Buddhist rather, that's the path. So whatever their path is, this is not about changing, it's about embracing. Yeah.
Okay. And then to take us back to your initial point, we can be the kitten and we can surrender, or we can give our love to, and or in our third step, then we combine with.
Yes.
Whatever is our divine.
Yes. Put another way, if you could imagine that I'm here, and behind me is this brilliant circle of light. I'm looking that way, and the light's shining, and I'm saying, look at all this shadow that's in front of me. There's constantly darkness in my life. And I'm saying, well, can't you help me, God? Can't you do something? And you hear him, why don't you turn around and look? And eventually we say, I'm tired of the darkness. We turn around and we see the light. And then what we do is we start praying. And as we start praying, we develop this, okay, well, you know, I'm yours. That's the first step. Well, the second step is we jump inside the light. And then we think that we are actually one with God. But there's a circle inside a larger circle.
Yes. Ah.
Yeah. And the next stage is to become
the light. I love it. Okay, if you would like to be in touch with Nigel Taylor, and you know we always love to hear from you too, stay tuned, and then we'll have some parting thoughts. So initiation into miracles is one man's personal journey. You may identify with that journey. It may help you to learn to live in balance in mind, body, and spirit. And also it may make you feel that you are a part of something bigger and larger, a part of the divine. Until next time, I'm Georgia Shakti-Hill. May you be well, happy, and peaceful.